Discipline is doing what you said you'd do, long after the mood you set it in is gone. Master self-control, the secret weapon of high performers. If you enjoy the books I publish here, hit like and subscribe. Also, let me know where you're listening from and the time there in the comments below. It's always cool to see. Now let's begin. Chapter 1. The 2 a.m. test that shows what you're really made of. The notification pings at 2:17 a.m. Your phone lights up the darkroom. Instagram, TikTok. That email you've been avoiding. Your body's screaming for sleep, but your hand reaches anyway. This moment, right here, is the real test of self-control. Not some grand, headline-worthy event. Not New Year's resolutions or life-altering decisions. It's this tiny, invisible choice nobody sees. The battle between what feels good now and what's truly good for you. Most people lose this fight every single night, and wonder why their days spiral out of control, why goals remain distant dreams, why success feels out of reach. Picture this. A software developer, wiped out after a brutal 12-hour grind. Mind fried, body aching. All they want is to zone out, scroll mindlessly, turn their brain to mush. The phone is just there. Dopamine a tap away. But here's what they don't see. This moment isn't about the phone. It's about who they're becoming. Every time you choose the easy path when no one's watching, you're casting a vote. A vote for the version of yourself who gives in, who takes shortcuts, who lets feelings drive the bus. Every time you choose the harder path, you're voting differently, for discipline, for strength, for the person you truly want to become. The software developer who puts their phone in another room isn't just protecting their sleep. They're building something deeper, self-control, the secret weapon that separates high performers from everyone else. But here's what most people get wrong about self-control. They think it's about willpower, gritting their teeth, forcing themselves through discomfort. That's not self-control. That's self-torture. Real self-control works differently. It starts with understanding something most people never learn. Your brain is not your friend when it comes to long-term success. Let me explain. Your brain wasn't designed for success. It was designed for survival. It craves immediate pleasure, instant relief, and constant comfort. It's wired to avoid pain, seek pleasure, and conserve energy. These instincts saved our ancestors' lives, but today, they keep you stuck. The marketing manager who can't stop scrolling social media at work. The teacher who knows they should exercise but chooses Netflix instead. The entrepreneur who procrastinates on the hard tasks that actually move the needle. They're not weak. They're not broken. They're just letting their primitive brain run the show. High performers? They've learned to override those instincts. They develop what neuroscientists call cognitive control. The ability to act on long-term goals instead of short-term impulses. Here's the best part. This isn't a talent you're born with. It's a skill you can build. A 2019 Stanford study tracked 1,000 people over 5 years. Those with higher self-control had better relationships, more career success, improved health, and greater life satisfaction. And the biggest winners? The people who strengthened their self-control over time. They saw massive improvements across every part of life. Translation? Master self-control, and you master your life. But here's the truth most people miss. They try to white-knuckle through temptation, rely on motivation that vanishes by Tuesday, set impossible standards, and then beat themselves up when they fall short. That's not mastery. That's misery. Real self-control starts by knowing your enemy. And the enemy isn't willpower. It's the gap. The gap between what you want to do and what you actually do. The gap between your intentions and your actions. The gap between who you want to be and who you are right now. That gap exists in everyone. What separates winners? What you do about it. Most people try to eliminate the gap through force. High performers do something smarter. They build bridges across it. That software developer lying in bed at 2 a.m., if they're smart, they don't rely on willpower to resist the phone. They put the phone in another room before exhaustion hits. Charge it in the kitchen. Use an old-fashioned alarm clock. They remove the choice entirely. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. Because here's what I've learned from studying high performers for years. The people with the most self-control aren't those with the strongest willpower. They're the ones who need willpower the least. They design their environment to support their goals. build systems that carry them when motivation fades. They work with their brain, not against it. And that's exactly what we're diving into in this audiobook. Not the myth of endless willpower, but the reality of smart self-control. The kind that works, the kind that lasts, the kind that transforms ordinary people into high performers. Because at the end of the day, self-control isn't about perfection. It's about progress. It's about becoming the person who can be trusted with their own dreams. So the next time you face that 2 a.m. choice, remember this moment. You're not just deciding what to do, you're deciding who you are becoming. Every small choice is a vote cast for your future self. Choose wisely, because your life is the sum of these moments. And now, it's your turn. What version of yourself will you build? And that choice? That's where everything changes. Chapter 2. The willpower trap that's quietly destroying your success. The gym is packed on January 2nd. Treadmills full. Weights claimed. Energy buzzing. Everyone's riding the wave of New Year motivation. This is it, they tell themselves. This is my year. Fast forward to February 15th. Same gym. Same equipment. But where is everyone? They didn't suddenly become lazy. They didn't lose their desire to get fit. They fell victim to the willpower myth, the dangerous lie that success comes from having unlimited mental strength to push through anything. Here's the brutal truth about willpower. It's finite, it depletes, and relying on it is like trying to run a marathon on a single energy bar. Imagine a financial advisor who starts every day with the best intentions. They'll eat healthy, exercise, work on their business plan, call difficult clients, spend quality time with family. But by 10 a.m., they've already made 47 decisions. What to wear, what to eat, which route to take, how to respond to emails. Every choice chips away at their mental energy. By 3 p.m., their willpower tank is running on fumes. That's when the vending machine starts calling, when they skip the gym, when they avoid the hard conversations, when they choose Netflix over their business plan. They blame themselves for lacking discipline. But the real problem? They're trying to use a limited resource for unlimited demands. This is what psychologists call decision fatigue. Your brain treats every choice like a workout for your willpower muscle. And just like any muscle, it gets tired. Roy Baumeister proved this brilliantly. He brought people into a lab and put them in a room with fresh-baked cookies and radishes. Half the group could eat the cookies. The other half could only eat radishes. Then he gave both groups an impossible puzzle to solve. The cookie group worked on the puzzle for an average of 19 minutes. The radish group, they gave up after just 8 minutes. Resisting the cookies drained their willpower. They had less mental energy left for the real challenge. This happens to you every single day. Every time you resist checking your phone. Every time you choose the salad over the burger. Every time you bite your tongue instead of snapping at someone. You're depleting the same mental resource. And here's where it gets dangerous. Most people don't realize this. They think successful people just have more willpower. So they try to muscle through everything. They set impossible standards. They chase motivation like a fleeting spark. And when they inevitably slip, they beat themselves up. I just don't have enough discipline. I'm not cut out for this. Maybe I'm just weak. None of that is true. You're not weak. You're just playing the game wrong. High performers get it. Willpower isn't a way of life. It's an emergency tool. A fire extinguisher, not the furnace. Think about it. You wouldn't try to power your entire house with a flashlight battery. So why try to power your entire life with willpower? The smartest people I know barely use willpower at all. Instead, they master what I call environmental design. They architect their world so the right choices happen automatically. Take the marketing executive who never misses a workout. They don't rely on motivation. Their gym bag is packed, waiting by the door. Their workout clothes are laid out like armor. The gym is on their route to work. Every excuse and obstacle eliminated before the day even begins. The entrepreneur who eats healthy despite a crazy schedule, they don't battle cravings at 3 p.m. They meal prep on Sundays. They keep healthy snacks in their desk. They've eliminated junk food from their office. The teacher who reads 50 books a year. They don't force themselves to read when exhausted. They keep a book in their car, their bag, their nightstand. They replaced scrolling time with reading time. They made the good choice the easy choice. This is the secret high performers know. The best way to win the willpower game is not to play it. But here's where most people trip up. They think environmental design means eliminating all temptation, living like a monk, removing every pleasure from life. That's not sustainable, and it's not necessary. Smart environmental design is about making the right choice easier, not about erasing all other options. Take the software engineer who struggled with late-night phone scrolling. They didn't toss their phone in a drawer and switch to a flip phone. They just moved it to another room at night. One small change, massive impact. Or the sales manager who couldn't stop snacking during calls. They didn't ban all food from their office. They swapped chips for almonds. Same habit, better outcome. The key? Understanding your own patterns. When do you make bad choices? What triggers them? What makes those choices easier or harder? Most people never ask these questions. They just hope willpower will save them. But hope is not a strategy. Here's what actually works. Start small. Pick one area where you consistently struggle. Just one. Maybe it's checking your phone first thing in the morning. Maybe it's stress eating junk food. Maybe it's procrastinating on important tasks. Don't try to fix everything at once. That's a willpower trap. Focus on one pattern, one environment, one small change that makes the right choice easier. The accountant who wanted to stop checking email before bed, they bought a charging station for the kitchen. Now their phone stays there overnight. No willpower required. The consultant who kept skipping breakfast and crashing by 10 a.m., they started keeping protein bars in their car. Not perfect nutrition, but better than nothing. It broke the cycle of poor choices that followed. The project manager who procrastinated on difficult conversations, they blocked 30 minutes every Friday for hard talks. Put it on the calendar. Treated it like any other meeting. None of these changes demanded superhuman willpower. They required thinking ahead, planning for weakness, designing for success. Because here's the truth about self-control. It's not about being stronger than your impulses. It's about being smarter than them. The people who seem to have endless discipline, they're not fighting harder battles. They're fighting fewer battles. They've learned to win the war by avoiding unnecessary fights. And that's exactly what we're going to explore next. How to identify the battles worth fighting. How to build systems that work even when you don't feel like it. How to create real, lasting self-control that doesn't depend on having a perfect day. Because the goal isn't to become a willpower machine. The goal is to become someone who doesn't need one. Chapter 3. The Hidden Psychology of Instant Gratification. The DoorDash notification buzzes. Your food will arrive in 25 minutes. You ordered dinner without leaving the couch. No cooking, no cleanup, just instant satisfaction. This is the world we live in now. Everything is immediate, easy, designed to give you what you want when you want it. And it's quietly destroying your ability to delay gratification. Here's what most people don't realize. Every time you choose instant over delayed, you're not just making a choice about food or entertainment. You're training your brain, teaching it that waiting is unnecessary, that discomfort should be avoided, that you deserve to feel good right now. Your brain is an excellent student. It learns fast, adapts quicker, and once it knows instant gratification is always available, it starts demanding it everywhere. Picture a graphic designer working on a tough project. Deep focus, creative problem solving. But every few minutes, restlessness creeps in. This is hard. This is boring. Let's check Instagram. Just 5 minutes. They give in. Get a quick dopamine hit. Feel better for 30 seconds. Then, try to refocus. But now their brain knows something crucial. When things get difficult, relief is just a tap away. So the next challenge brings an even stronger urge, and the next one stronger still. This is instant gratification addiction. It's not about the thing you consume. It's about the pattern you create. The neural pathway you strengthen every time you choose immediate pleasure over long-term payoff. And here's the scary truth. It doesn't stay in one corner of your life. It spreads. The person who can't resist their phone during focused work, they'll struggle to stick to a workout. They'll fail at saving money. They'll avoid tough conversations. They'll dodge anything that demands effort and delayed rewards. Because their brain has learned a fundamental lesson. Why wait when you can have it now? But high performers see it differently. They know that the ability to delay gratification isn't just a nice-to-have skill. It's the foundation of every meaningful achievement. Decades ago, the famous Stanford marshmallow experiment revealed this truth. Researchers placed a marshmallow in front of 4-year-olds and gave them a choice. Eat it now, or wait 15 minutes and get 2 marshmallows. Some kids couldn't wait. Others found ways to distract themselves, to resist the urge. The researchers followed these children for decades. Those who mastered waiting went on to have better grades, healthier relationships, lower addiction rates, and higher life satisfaction. Not because they were smarter or luckier, but because they learned to tolerate discomfort for a bigger reward. This skill, more than IQ, talent, or luck, predicted their success. But the study didn't show us the most important part: how to develop this skill if it doesn't come naturally. How to rewire a brain trained for instant gratification. How to build the mental muscle of delayed gratification in a world designed to weaken it. That's what we're about to explore. First, you need to understand the battle inside your brain when you face the choice between immediate and delayed rewards. There are 2 systems at war. System 1 is fast, emotional, and focused on the now. It sees the marshmallow and says, "Eat it. You want it. You deserve it." System 2 is slower, rational, and future-focused. It says, "Wait. 2 marshmallows are better than 1." In a healthy brain, these 2 systems work together. System 1 fuels motivation and energy. It fires the initial spark. System 2 brings direction and control. It steers the ship. But in our instant gratification era, System 1 has gone rogue. It's been overfed and reinforced thousands of times. Every notification you instantly respond to. Every craving you satisfy without hesitation. Every impulse you chase without pause. With each act, you make System 1 stronger and System 2 weaker. Here's the good news. You can reverse this. You can retrain your brain. But first, you need to understand how it really works. When temptation hits, your brain releases dopamine. Not when you get the reward, but when you anticipate it. The moment your mind drifts toward checking your phone, ordering food, or scrolling online, dopamine floods your system. It creates urgency, that feeling that you need to act now. Most people mistake this feeling for a command they have to obey. High performers know better. They see it as information, their brain saying, "Hey, potential reward here." But it's not a mandate. They don't have to act. This is the first skill of mastering delayed gratification, observing the urge without obeying it. Take a project manager deep in focused work. They feel the pull to check email. Instead of reaching for the phone, they pause. Notice the feeling. Acknowledge it. "I'm feeling the urge to check email. That's interesting." But they don't give in. At first, discomfort rises. The urge grows louder. The brain starts bargaining. Just a quick peek. It might be important. You'll focus better afterward. But if they can stay present with the discomfort for just a few minutes, something incredible happens. The urge passes. The dopamine wave fades. The brain realizes it won't get its instant hit, and it begins to adapt. This practice is called urge surfing. Instead of fighting the wave, you ride it out. Let it peak, then subside naturally. The more you practice urge surfing, the easier it becomes. Not because the urges weaken, they often stay just as strong, but because you get stronger. You develop what psychologists call distress tolerance, the ability to be uncomfortable without immediately seeking relief. Here's where most people stumble. They try to bulldoze through temptation with sheer willpower. They white-knuckle it, and they burn out fast. Smart delayed gratification isn't about suffering. It's about redirection. When the marketing coordinator feels the itch to scroll social media during work, they don't just grit their teeth. They redirect. Take 3 deep breaths. Look out the window. Sip water. Remind themselves why the current task matters. They're not suppressing the urge. They're giving their brains something else to focus on. And here's the key insight. The goal isn't to eliminate all instant gratification. That's impossible. And honestly, unnecessary. The goal is to become intentional about when you choose it. High performers still enjoy immediate pleasures. They still scroll social media, order takeout, buy things they want. But they do it by choice, not by compulsion. They do it when it aligns with their goals, not when it undermines them. The difference? Awareness. They notice the urge. They pause. They ask themselves, is this what I really want right now? Or is this just my brain chasing a dopamine hit? And then they choose, consciously. Sometimes they take the immediate reward. Sometimes they wait. But either way, they're in control. Not controlled by impulses. This is what real self-control looks like. Not the absence of pleasure, but the power to choose when and how to experience it. And the more you practice this conscious choosing, the stronger your delayed gratification muscle becomes. You begin to find satisfaction in the waiting itself, pride in tolerating discomfort, joy in knowing you can prioritize your long-term goals over short-term impulses. Because here's what I've learned. Delayed gratification isn't just about hitting goals. It's about becoming the person who can be trusted with their own dreams. The person who does what they say they'll do. The person who can face discomfort head on and grow stronger through it. And that person? That's who you become every time you choose to wait. Every time you surf the urge instead of surrendering to it. Every time you remember the best things in life are worth waiting for. The marshmallow wasn't the point. The waiting is. Chapter 4. The invisible emotional force that destroys your best intentions. It's 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. You've been grinding in back-to-back meetings since 9 a.m. Your inbox is overflowing. Deadlines are closing in like a storm. Then it lands. That email. The one dripping with passive aggression. The one that questions your competence without saying it outright. The one that makes your blood boil and your jaw clench. In that instant, every intention you had to stay calm, professional, and collected evaporates. Your fingers are already racing across the keyboard, crafting a sharp, defensive reply. One you'll regret the second you hit send. This is emotional hijacking. The silent assassin of self-control. Most people think self-control means resisting temptation, saying no to the donut, ignoring the phone, sticking to the plan. But the real battle isn't fought when you're calm and clear-headed. It's fought when anger, frustration, anxiety, and overwhelm take over. When your emotions hijack your nervous system and your rational mind checks out. Here's the brutal truth nobody tells you about emotions. They don't just influence your choices. They seize your whole body. When that email triggers your anger, your amygdala, your brain's alarm system, sounds the war horn. It floods your body with stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine. Your heart pounds, breathing quickens, muscles tighten. Your prefrontal cortex, the CEO of your brain responsible for reason and self-control, shuts down. In that state, you're not choosing. You're reacting. Fight, flight, freeze. None of those responses build careers, nurture relationships, or advance your dreams. Picture a sales manager, grinding for a promotion for 2 long years. They're in a team meeting when their boss calls out their latest project. Nothing brutal, just honest feedback. But somehow, it hits like a gut punch. In that moment, the professional disappears. They're not the calm, composed adult anymore. They're a wounded kid, desperate to protect themselves. Their words snap out sharp and defensive. They get personal. In just 30 seconds, years of trust and hard work begin to unravel. Later, when the storm clears, they're crushed. Why did I do that? I'm usually so level-headed. This is emotional hijacking in action. No matter how smart you are, no matter how much self-control you think you've built, when emotions surge past a certain point, your rational brain checks out. Daniel Goleman calls it amygdala hijack. The emotional brain takes the wheel so fully your higher thinking skills vanish. Your values, gone. Consequences, invisible. Strategy, out the window. You're operating on raw emotional reflex. Here's the truth. It happens to everyone. The CEO who snaps at their assistant. The teacher who loses patience with a tough student. The parent who yells over spilled milk. The entrepreneur firing off that angry email. None of them are villains. None are fools. Just humans overwhelmed by their own emotional systems. But here's the game changer. Emotional hijacking is not inevitable. You can't always control what sets you off, but you can control how you respond. The secret lies in understanding the anatomy of an emotional hijack. It's not instant. There's a crucial window, between 6 and 90 seconds, where you can step in. Think of it like a wave forming out at sea. You see it coming. You feel its power building. And if you know the signs, you can prepare. A financial advisor hears a client subtly question their expertise. Tightness grips their chest. Heat rises in their face. The urge to snap back flares. But they've trained themselves to spot these early signals. They take a deep, steady breath. They pause. They step back. They give their nervous system a chance to reset before the wave crashes. When they return to the conversation, everything's different. They're not defending their ego anymore. They're protecting the relationship. They're no longer reacting. They're leading. And leadership isn't about never feeling the heat. It's about not letting the heat burn the bridge. See, this isn't about suppressing emotions. Emotions are intel. They tell you what you care about. They signal when something is off. The danger isn't feeling them. It's letting them run the show. Real self-control lives in the space between trigger and response. That tiny pause is where careers are saved, deals are salvaged, and relationships survive the storm. Psychologists call this emotional regulation. I call it your emotional buffer zone. But here's the mistake most people make. They try to bully their emotions into silence. Don't be angry. Don't be anxious. Don't be frustrated. That's like standing in front of a river with your hands out, hoping to stop the current. It doesn't work. You just get swept away. Smart emotional regulation works differently. You don't fight the river. You learn to ride it. When a project manager feels crushed by their workload, they don't lie to themselves and say, "I'm fine." They acknowledge it. "Yeah, I'm overwhelmed right now." And it makes sense. Then they ask, "What does this emotion need from me?" Maybe it's a break. Maybe it's a tighter plan. Maybe it's a conversation with the boss about reality versus fantasy deadlines. It's not about denying the emotion. It's about decoding it. The emotion isn't the enemy. The emotion is a messenger. And if you stop shooting the messenger and start listening to it, you can make choices that change your life instead of choices you regret. But this isn't some switch you flip once. This takes practice, a lot of it, because emotional hijacking moves fast. Your window to stop it isn't measured in minutes. It's measured in seconds. That's why I use one of the most effective tools I've ever found: emotional labeling. When you feel that surge rising, you don't fight it. You name it. Out loud or in your head. "I'm feeling angry right now. I notice anxiety in my chest. Frustration is building about this situation." Sounds almost too simple, right? But here's the magic. When you label an emotion, you wake up your prefrontal cortex. That's the part of your brain that's built for self-control. You're literally thinking your way out of the emotional hijack. Research from UCLA shows emotional labeling can cut the intensity of a negative emotion by up to 50%. Just by naming what's happening, you start taking the steering wheel back from your amygdala. But naming is only the first level. The real mastery is decoding the message behind the feeling. Picture a marketing exec in a team brainstorm, and frustration hits like a wall. Instead of letting it leak out as sarcasm or criticism, they stop. They label it, "I'm feeling frustrated." Then they go deeper. What is this frustration telling me? Maybe the team's going in circles without deciding anything. Maybe their ideas keep getting ignored. Maybe they care about the project so much it's painful to watch it drift. Now they've got the message, and with it, options. They can suggest a more structured process. They can ask for the floor to share their perspective. They can turn that same passion that was boiling over into a force that moves the team forward. The frustration becomes fuel instead of fire. That's emotional mastery. Not the absence of strong feelings, but the ability to turn those feelings into data, direction, and drive, instead of letting them drive you. And here's where the real shift happens. The moment you stop being a slave to your emotions and start using them as tools. The more you practice this skill, the more automatic it becomes. Your emotional recovery time shrinks. Your triggers lose their grip. Your responses turn sharper, calmer, more intentional. You start developing what researchers call emotional granularity, the ability to tell the difference between stress, frustration, disappointment, and overwhelm. And that's a game changer, because each emotion carries a different message and needs a different response. A teacher who can tell the difference between feeling disrespected and feeling unappreciated can fix the real problem instead of snapping at students. An entrepreneur who can separate fear of failure from excitement about opportunity can make bold, strategic moves without self-sabotage. A parent who can recognize exhaustion versus genuine concern about their child can respond with wisdom instead of frustration. But here's the part most people miss. You are not your emotions. When you're angry, you're not an angry person. You're a person experiencing anger. When you're anxious, you're not an anxious person. You're a person experiencing anxiety. That difference is everything. When you are your emotions, they control you. When you observe them, you control your response. Think about the software engineer who makes a mistake. One says, "I'm so stupid." That's shame talking, and it keeps them stuck. Another says, "I'm feeling embarrassed right now," and that's understandable. That's awareness. And it turns a mistake into growth. Once you master this separation, something powerful happens. The very emotions that once derailed you become fuel for your best decisions. One response keeps you trapped, the other sets you free. And freedom is what emotional self-control really offers. Freedom from being at the mercy of your moods. Freedom from saying things you don't mean. Freedom from making decisions you'll regret. Freedom from letting temporary emotions create permanent consequences. Because here's the truth about emotions. They're temporary visitors, not permanent residents. No matter how intense they feel in the moment, they will pass. The anger will fade. The anxiety will subside. The frustration will dissolve. But the choices you make while experiencing those emotions, those can last forever. The email you send in anger. The opportunity you avoid because of fear. The relationship you damage because of pride. The goal you abandon because of discouragement. These consequences outlive the emotions that created them. That's why emotional self-control isn't just a nice-to-have skill. It's essential for anyone who wants to build something meaningful with their life. Because success isn't just about what you do when you feel good. It's about what you do when you feel terrible. When you're angry, scared, frustrated, or overwhelmed. When your emotions are screaming at you to quit, lash out, or give up. Those are the moments that define you. Those are the moments that separate high performers from everyone else. Those are the moments when real self-control matters most. And the beautiful thing? Every time you choose to respond instead of react, you're building that muscle. Every time you pause instead of exploding, you're getting stronger. Every time you listen to your emotions without being controlled by them, you're becoming the person who can handle whatever life throws at you. That person is who you're becoming. One conscious choice at a time. One response keeps you trapped. The other sets you free. And that's what emotional self-control really gives you. Freedom. Freedom from being jerked around by your moods. Freedom from saying things you can't take back. Freedom from making choices you'll regret for years. Freedom from letting a temporary feeling create a permanent scar. Here's the truth nobody tells you. Emotions are temporary visitors, not permanent residents. The anger will fade. The anxiety will settle. The frustration will dissolve. But the choices you make while you're in that emotional storm, those can last a lifetime. It's the email you send in anger that burns a bridge. The opportunity you walk away from because fear whispered, "Not ready." The relationship you wound because pride took the wheel. The goal you abandoned because discouragement convinced you it was pointless. The emotion passes, but the damage remains. That's why emotional self-control isn't optional if you want to build something that matters. It's the difference between a life you shape intentionally and a life you keep cleaning up after. Because success isn't built in the moments when you feel good. It's forged in the moments when you feel awful, angry, scared, frustrated, or completely overwhelmed. When every emotion in your body is screaming at you to quit, lash out, or run away, and you don't. Those moments define you. They separate the people who reach their potential from the ones who watch it slip away. And here's the beautiful thing. Every time you choose to respond instead of react, you're training that muscle. Every time you pause instead of exploding, you're getting stronger. Every time you listen to an emotion without letting it run your life, you're proving to yourself, I can handle this. That's the person you're becoming, not by accident, not by luck, but one conscious choice at a time. Chapter 5. The identity trap that keeps you stuck in old patterns. I'm just not a morning person. I've always been disorganized. I'm not good with money. I'm not the type who exercises. I'm just not disciplined. How many times have you told yourself something like this? How many times have you let your identity become an excuse? Here's the uncomfortable truth nobody talks about. Every time you say, I'm just not that kind of person, you're not describing reality. You're creating it. You're locking yourself into a story that becomes a prison. A familiar, comfortable prison that keeps you exactly where you are. But what if I told you this story isn't set in stone? What if the person you think you are is just the person you've practiced being? What if you could literally rewire your sense of self? This is the hidden power behind real self-control. It's not just about what you do. It's about who you believe you are. Because here's what most people get backwards. Your behavior flows from your identity, not the other way around. If you see yourself as someone who lacks discipline, your actions will follow. You hit snooze instead of getting up. You take the easy path instead of the hard one. You quit when things get tough. Not because you're weak, but because that's what undisciplined people do. And you've already decided that's who you are. But if you see yourself as someone with unshakable self-control, your actions change too. You push through discomfort. You choose what serves your long-term goals. You keep going when others give up, because that's what disciplined people do. And that's who you believe you are. Your identity is like a thermostat for your behavior. It keeps you locked in a certain range, your comfort zone. Step outside that range, and your internal system fights to pull you back to normal. Picture a data analyst who's always called themselves the smart but lazy one. They start a new workout routine, fired up with genuine excitement. For the first week, they're consistent. They feel energized, proud, like they're finally changing. But then something strange happens. Their brain starts whispering, "This isn't like us. We don't do this. We're not the exercise type." That quiet resistance grows louder. Excuses begin. Too busy, too tired, too stressed. Within a month, they're back to old habits. Not because the workouts were impossible, not because time ran out, but because their actions didn't match their identity. And identity always wins. This is why most change efforts fail. People try to fix what they do without changing who they believe they are. They try acting disciplined while still seeing themselves as undisciplined. That clash, it's a war they can't win. But here's what high performers know. Lasting transformation happens at the identity level. They don't just change habits, they rewrite their story. And here's the best news of all. You get to choose your story. Your identity isn't locked in by your genes, your past, or your circumstances. It's shaped by the evidence you collect about yourself. The actions you take, the choices you make. Every time you do something, you're casting a vote, choosing the person you want to become. Every time you pick the salad over the burger, you're voting, I am someone who cares for my health. Every time you wake up early to chase your goals, you're voting, I am someone who prioritizes what matters. Every time you face a tough conversation instead of avoiding it, you're voting, I am someone who confronts challenges head-on. The person you become isn't luck or fate. It's the sum of all the votes you cast, thousands of times a day. But here's where it gets tricky. Most people are unconscious voters. They keep casting votes for identities they don't really want. The marketing manager who says they want to be organized but leaves their desk a mess every day, they're voting for, I'm a disorganized person. The teacher who claims they want to be healthier but skips meals and lives on coffee, they're voting for, I'm someone who doesn't prioritize self-care. The entrepreneur who dreams of success but procrastinates on the hardest tasks, they're voting for, I'm someone who avoids difficult work. They're not bad people, not lazy or broken. They're simply unaware of the identity they're building with every choice. The first step to real change? Become conscious of your votes. Start paying attention to the story your daily actions are telling. What kind of person do your habits make you? What identity are you reinforcing moment by moment? This isn't about judgment. It's about awareness. You can't change what you don't first acknowledge. Take a financial advisor who realizes they've been voting for, I'm someone who's always stressed and overwhelmed. They say yes to every request. Check emails nonstop, skip lunch, bring work home every night. Each choice seems small, even reasonable. But together, they're crafting an identity, one that traps them in chaos and exhaustion. And that identity makes it harder to develop the self-control they so desperately need. Once aware, they can start voting differently. They say no to non-essential demands. Set specific times to check email. Protect their lunch breaks. Create clear work-life boundaries. Each new choice is a vote for a different identity. I'm someone who manages time well. I'm someone who sets healthy boundaries. I'm someone who prioritizes what matters. Here's the magic. You don't have to feel like that person to start becoming them. You can start voting for your new identity, right now. The software engineer who wants more discipline doesn't need to wait until they feel disciplined. They close the social media tab and focus on work for 25 minutes. That's one vote for I'm a disciplined person. The parent who wants more patience doesn't need to feel patient first. They respond calmly to their child's next question instead of snapping. That's one vote for I'm a patient person. Every choice counts. Every vote shapes who you become. The sales professional who wants to become more confident? They don't need to feel confident first. They just need to make that one phone call they've been avoiding. That's one vote for I'm a confident person. Every vote matters. Every choice is evidence. Every action is proof of who you're becoming. But here's the crucial truth. Identity change doesn't happen overnight. It's not about a single dramatic breakthrough. It's about accumulating evidence over time. Think of it like a courtroom. You're both the prosecutor and the jury in the case of who you are. Every action is a piece of evidence. And the verdict? It's decided by the weight of your evidence. If you have 100 pieces proving I'm undisciplined, and only 3 proving I'm disciplined, the verdict is obvious. But start stacking more evidence for discipline. 200 pieces for discipline, 100 for the old habits. And suddenly you start seeing yourself differently. The key isn't perfection, it's consistency. You don't need to vote right every single time. You just need to vote for the identity you want more often than you vote against it. A project manager aiming to be someone who exercises regularly? They don't need to work out every day. They just need to work out more days than they skip. 4 workouts a week, 3 skips. That's evidence for I'm someone who exercises regularly. An accountant who wants to eat healthy? They don't have to be perfect every meal. They just need to make healthy choices more often than unhealthy ones. If 70% of their meals support their health, they're building proof for I'm someone who takes care of their body. That's why small, consistent actions are so powerful. They don't just change what you do. They change who you are. They give you the evidence that you're the kind of person who does the hard things, follows through on commitments, and chooses long-term growth over short-term comfort. As you keep stacking up those small wins, something powerful begins to happen. That new identity you're aiming for? It stops feeling like a struggle and starts feeling like you. The disciplined choices don't exhaust you anymore. They become part of your rhythm. Self-control shifts from a battle to something automatic. Why? Because you're no longer wrestling against who you think you are. Instead, you're moving with it. But here's where most people stumble. They try to flip their entire identity overnight. They cast a bunch of votes for this new version of themselves. And when they inevitably fall short, they say, "See? I'm just not disciplined. I failed again." That's not failure. That's a sign you tried to sprint when you needed to take small, steady steps. Real, lasting identity change happens bit by bit. It's about those small votes, those easy wins that feel doable but still move you forward. Take the graphic designer who wants to be organized. They don't overhaul their whole life in one go. They start with something simple, like making their bed every morning. That's one vote for I'm organized. A few weeks later, when that feels natural, they add clearing their desk at the end of the day. Another vote. And bit by bit, their identity shifts. Being organized becomes less of a goal and more of who they are. Here's the beautiful part. This momentum compounds. Every identity-aligned choice you make makes the next one easier. Every piece of evidence builds your new story. Every vote feels more natural than the last. The teacher who begins to see themselves as healthy finds choosing the salad easier. The entrepreneur who believes they're someone who tackles hard work jumps into tough projects with less hesitation. The parent who embraces calm under pressure responds thoughtfully instead of reacting, because they're no longer fighting their nature, they're expressing it. This is the real secret to self-control. It's not about forcing yourself to act differently. It's about becoming the person who naturally acts that way. It's not willpower, it's identity power. And here's the best part. You get to choose who that person is. You get to choose your identity. You get to write your own story, starting now, with your very next choice, your very next vote. So, who are you becoming? Chapter 6, the system that makes self-control automatic. It's 5:30 a.m. The alarm buzzes softly on a sleek bedside clock. A software architect sits up in bed, reaches for a neatly folded journal on their nightstand, and spends 5 quiet minutes jotting down their goals for the day. No mental tug of war, no wrestle with motivation, just calm, intentional action. This ritual has been their morning anchor for 3 years. Through chaotic deadlines, restless nights, and days when energy felt drained, they show up. How? They built a system, a habit ecosystem so well-tuned that self-control flows effortlessly. This is the true breakthrough in personal growth, the moment when good decisions aren't battles, but automatic moves. Discipline becomes second nature, as natural as breathing. Most people don't get here. They count on bursts of motivation, willpower, or good intentions that fade fast. They fight the same internal wars repeatedly, hoping this time will stick. But high performers? They play smarter. They design their environment to remove friction. They build systems where the right choice is the path of least resistance. Self-control becomes inevitable. Let me give you an example. This software architect wasn't always this consistent. 2 years ago, mornings were a struggle. Chaotic, rushed, and unpredictable. Exercise? Forget it. Healthy habits? Rare. They made every excuse imaginable. But instead of relying on motivation, they redesigned their approach. First, they cleared obstacles. They set out workout clothes on a chair the night before, placed a water bottle on the kitchen counter, and created a simple playlist for morning energy. Every excuse removed. Then, they introduced accountability. They signed up for a sunrise yoga class twice a week. They shared their goals with a close friend who checked in regularly. They logged their progress on a habit tracker app. They made quitting harder than continuing. Next, they stacked habits. After brushing their teeth, they rolled out a yoga mat without thinking. The morning routine itself became the cue, making the flow seamless. Finally, they focused on the reward. Not flashy treats, but the sense of calm and focus yoga brought. The extra energy during work hours. The quiet pride in sticking to the plan. Within 6 months, their routine felt natural, not because of willpower, but because the system made it simple. This is how real change works, not through sheer force, but through smart design. And these principles apply everywhere. The marketing manager struggling with social media distractions didn't just try harder. They installed website blockers during focus hours, hid their phone in a drawer, and scheduled brief, intentional scroll breaks. They swapped scrolling for quick stretches. The teacher, wanting to eat healthier, meal prepped every Sunday, ordered groceries online to dodge impulse buys, and kept fresh fruit and nuts on their desk to replace mindless snacking. The entrepreneur, aiming to boost productivity, time-blocked their calendar, grouped similar tasks, created a clear shutdown routine, and set up their workspace to minimize distractions. In each example, the system did the heavy lifting. The individual just followed the process. But here's where most people get it wrong about systems. They think systems mean restriction, that they'll trap you in rigidity, turning you into a robot. That's exactly backwards. Systems create freedom. Freedom from wrestling with the same decisions every day. Freedom from the roller coaster of motivation. Freedom from mental burnout caused by constant self-control battles. When you have a solid system for exercise, you don't waste energy debating whether to move. When you have a system for healthy eating, food choices become automatic. When you build a system for productivity, procrastination loses its grip. The system makes the call. You just show up and execute. That frees your brain to focus on what really matters. Creative ideas, strategic moves, deep connections, the things that shape your life. But here's the catch. Building systems that stick means understanding how habits really work. Most folks think habits are just about doing something over and over until it's automatic. That's partly true, but incomplete. Habits are neurological loops. Cue, routine, reward. A trigger, the behavior, and the payoff. The cue flips your brain into autopilot. The routine is the action itself. The reward is the brain's thank you for completing the loop. Mastering this loop is the secret to crafting systems that last. Take a financial advisor who wanted to save more consistently. At first, they transferred money to savings only when they remembered. Sometimes it happened, sometimes it didn't. No system, no consistency. Then they designed a habit loop. Cue, payday hits, specific trigger. Routine, immediately transfer 20% to savings, specific action. Reward, check the growing balance and feel proud, specific payoff. 3 months later, saving was effortless. The system beat impulse every time, or the project manager who struggled with tense team dynamics. They tried reminding themselves to be patient, but results were hit or miss. Then they built a habit loop. Cue, just before every team meeting. Trigger. Routine, take 3 deep breaths and set an intention to listen. Action. Reward, notice smoother conversations and feel more confident. Payoff. The system reshaped their leadership, not through grit, but by design. Here's where systems become game changers. You can stack them, link habits together so each one triggers the next, creating a momentum chain. The graphic designer who wanted better health, focus, and creativity built a morning system. 5:30 a.m. Alarm rings. Cue for the whole sequence. 5:35 a.m. Drink a big glass of water, hydration habit. 5:40 a.m. 10 minutes of meditation, mental reset. 5:50 a.m. 20 minutes of movement, physical health. 6:10 a.m. Nutritious breakfast while reviewing goals, nutrition, and planning. 6:30 a.m. Dive into the day's top creative project, productivity habit. Each step flowed naturally into the next. The cumulative effect, sharper mind, healthier body, higher output, and more creativity, all born from one well-crafted system. This is the real power of systematic self-control. You're not relying on fleeting motivation or willpower. You're engineering your environment to make good choices effortless. But remember, building systems takes patience. It takes time for new neural pathways to form, for behaviors to shift from effortful to automatic. Research shows habits take anywhere from 18 to 254 days to fully automate, averaging about 66 days. Most people quit too soon, expecting instant results or perfection from day one. But systems are like compound interest. The payoff starts slow and then accelerates dramatically. The secret? Start small. Build steadily. Don't try to overhaul your life overnight. Begin with one simple habit loop. Make it so easy you can't fail. Focus on showing up consistently, not perfectly. A sales professional wanting to sharpen their skills didn't jump into 2-hour reading sessions. They started with 5 minutes, just 1 page of a business book after their morning coffee. 2 weeks in, it felt natural. A month later, they bumped it to 10 minutes. 3 months later, they were reading 30 minutes daily. Not out of force, but because the system had evolved. This is how real, lasting change happens. Not with dramatic overhauls or bursts of willpower, but through steady, gradual evolution. Not through flawless execution, but through consistent progress. And here's the beautiful truth about systems. They feed themselves. The more you lean on them, the stronger they grow. The stronger they grow, the easier they are to keep going. The easier they are to keep going, the more likely you are to stick with them. It's a powerful positive feedback loop that compounds over time. The teacher who built a system for organization found it easier to stay on top of their work. The entrepreneur who created a system for deep focus discovered that distractions faded away naturally. The parent who developed a system for patient responses noticed calmness becoming their default. The system changed their habits. Their habits reshaped their identity, and their new identity strengthened the system even more. This is the ultimate aim of self-control, not battling your nature, but designing a new one. Not depending on sheer willpower, but making willpower unnecessary. Not forcing change, but creating conditions where change flows naturally. Because here's what I've learned from studying high performers. The most disciplined people aren't those with the strongest willpower. They're the ones with the smartest systems. They've engineered their lives so self-control runs on autopilot. So good choices become inevitable. So success becomes systematic. And you can do the same. Starting today. Starting with just one simple habit loop. One small system. Because every system you build is a vote for who you're becoming. Every automatic right choice is proof of your growth. Every moment freed from relying on willpower is a moment you can invest in what truly matters. The real question isn't whether you have enough self-control. It's whether you're ready to build the systems that make self-control effortless. Are you ready to stop wrestling with the same battles? To make discipline easy? To design a life where the right choices simply happen? Your systems are waiting. Your future self is counting on you. And the best time to start building them was yesterday. The second best time is right now. Chapter 7. The long game that separates winners from everyone else. Your portfolio is down 12% this month. A financial planner stares at the screen. Their stomach tightens. The urge to panic surges. To sell everything. To stop the bleeding, no matter the cost. But they don't. They close the app, take a deep breath. They remind themselves why they invested, not for today, but for 20 years from now. This moment, this test, is the essence of self-control. It's not about resisting a donut or skipping social media. It's the ability to focus on what matters most, even when every instinct screams for immediate action. It's playing the long game while the world chases quick wins. This skill separates high performers from everyone else. Because here's a truth few understand about success. It's built over decades, not moments. It's about what you do when motivation is absent, not when it's high. It's not perfect days, but consistent years. Yet our brains aren't wired for this. We crave instant gratification. We respond to now, not later. The urgent always drowns out the important. Think about the marketing manager scrolling through social media for an hour, feeling connected and informed in the moment, but losing weeks of valuable time over a year. The teacher skipping exercise because they're tired, thinking they're resting, but sacrificing health over a lifetime. The entrepreneur avoiding tough conversations for comfort now, but missing out on strong relationships and growth. The short term feels right. The long-term costs are devastating. This is the tyranny of the urgent. But high performers escape this trap. They develop what I call temporal intelligence, the power to think in years and decades, not just days and hours. They make choices based on the person they want to become, not how they feel now. It's more than goal setting. It's rewiring how you think about time. Most think linearly. Small effort equals small result. Big effort equals big change. But real life works differently. Small actions compound into massive change. Tiny habits build enormous transformations. Consistency births exponential results. The software engineer reading 15 minutes daily doesn't see a shift after a week or a month. But a year later, 20 books read. Knowledge expanded. Skills sharpened. Doors opened. The accountant saving $50 monthly doesn't feel wealthy at first. But 20 years later, they have financial freedom built on quiet compounding. The parent reading nightly to their child doesn't see instant gains. But years in, that child's vocabulary, comprehension, and curiosity soar. Long-term thinking reveals the hidden power of patience. It helps you persist when progress is invisible. It teaches you to trust compound effects. Yet, this mindset requires training. Most of us live in present bias, choosing small rewards now over bigger ones later. Even when logic says wait. Emotion wins every time. But you can train yourself to think differently. You can build future self-continuity, a connection with the person you'll be years from now. When you see your future self clearly, you make choices that benefit both you today and that future you. The project manager picturing their retirement isn't imagining a stranger. They see a real person, grateful for the savings, healthy habits, and skills built now. This connection turns long-term thinking into an emotional experience, not just a mental one. Delayed gratification stops feeling like sacrifice. It becomes self-care. Building this connection takes practice. Try future self-journaling. Write weekly letters to yourself 10 years ahead. Share your struggles, ask for advice, imagine their answers. Try temporal reframing. When facing a tough choice, ask, how will I feel about this in 10 years? What would my future self want me to do? Which choice will I be proud of when I look back? These questions make the long-term consequences feel immediate, even urgent. The sales professional tempted to cut corners asks, how will this impact my reputation in 5 years? What kind of person do I want to be known as? Which choice builds the career I actually want? Long-term thinking reshapes your relationship with discomfort too. When you focus on instant results, pain feels like failure. Slow progress feels useless. No results? Time to quit. But when you think long-term, discomfort signals growth. It means you're pushing limits and building strength for tomorrow. The graphic designer learning new software doesn't expect mastery in a week. They welcome frustration, knowing it's tomorrow's skill in disguise. This mindset shifts your approach. You seek challenges instead of avoiding them. You embrace failure as education. You trust the process rather than rush the outcome. Because the best things in life take time. The greatest skills demand patience. The highest achievements require persistence. Self-control is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. It lets you do today what your future self will thank you for. It's the strength to plant trees whose shade you might never sit under. It's the power to build something bigger than yourself. The entrepreneur working years before profit. The teacher shaping minds without applause. The parents sacrificing comfort for their kids. The artist creating long before the spotlight. They all know one thing: the long game is the only game worth playing. And self-control is what keeps you in it when everyone else gives up. Here's what high performers understand. They don't just have more talent or luck. They have longer time horizons. They think in decades while others think in days. They choose based on where they want to be, not where they are. Success isn't an event. It's a process. And that process demands the highest self-control. The discipline to act for your future self, even when your present self resists. The patience to keep going when progress is invisible. The faith that small actions grow into extraordinary results. This is the long game. This is the secret weapon of winners. And it's yours, starting now. Starting with your next choice. Starting with the decision to think beyond this moment. To invest in your future. Your future self is counting on you. They're hoping you'll make the hard choices today so they can enjoy the rewards tomorrow. They trust you to plant the seeds they'll harvest. They believe you'll build the foundation they'll stand on. Don't let them down. The long game is calling. It's time to answer. Chapter 8. The unbreakable mind that thrives under pressure. The presentation is in 5 minutes. The biggest client of the year is in the room. 6 months of work boil down to this moment. And the projector just died. A business consultant stands at the front. Everyone's staring. The client checks their watch. The team is panicking. This is when self-control matters most. Not when everything runs smoothly. Not when you feel calm and prepared. But when the world is collapsing around you. When pressure crushes down. When all eyes are on you, waiting. Most people crumble here. Stress hijacks their thinking. They make frantic decisions they regret. They lose composure when they need it most. High performers, they do something different. They've built what I call unbreakable self-control, a resilience that grows stronger under pressure, a mindset that thrives in chaos, a way of turning obstacles into opportunities. This isn't about being naturally calm. It's about training your mind to operate at its best, when everything else falls apart. Because pressure doesn't create character, it reveals it. How you respond when things go wrong shows who you really are. Your choices under stress reflect the self-control you've built. The person you become in the storm is who you've trained to be. That consultant facing the dead projector. They don't panic. They don't blame. They don't let the tech failure derail them. They pause. Take a breath. Remember, their value isn't in the slides, but in their expertise. They look the client in the eye and say, "Actually, this gives us a chance to talk more directly about your challenges." Disaster flipped into opportunity. Not because they're gifted under pressure, because they've trained to respond. Not react. To see possibilities instead of problems. To stay centered when chaos reigns. This is unbreakable self-control. And it's built through deliberate practice. Most avoid pressure. They seek comfort and predictability. They want smooth sailing. But that weakness builds fragility. Avoid stress and you never learn to handle it. Eliminate pressure and resilience never grows. High performers do the opposite. They seek out challenge. They expose themselves to pressure. They practice performing under stress. They build the capacity to handle whatever comes. The software engineer who volunteers for tough presentations? Not born confident. They build it through exposure. Each talk trains them to handle pressure. Each audience question sharpens their composure. The teacher with the hardest students? Not naturally patient. They build patience with every challenge. Each difficult moment trains emotional control. Each crisis builds calm. The entrepreneur chasing bold goals? Not fearless by birth. They build courage by facing risk. Every setback is resilience training. Every win, proof of strength. This is stress inoculation. Like a vaccine exposes you to a little virus to build immunity. Manageable stress trains your mind to grow stronger. But it must be manageable. Too much pressure breaks you. The goal is gradual growth, not breakdown. Think physical training. You don't start bench pressing 300 pounds. You start light and build strength over time. Mental resilience is the same. Start with challenges you can handle. Increase difficulty gradually. Every pressure moment you master builds confidence. Every stressful situation you navigate raises your capacity. The financial advisor building resilience? They start with one tough client conversation a week. They practice calm under emotion. They sharpen clarity when stakes are high. The project manager developing composure? They start with mindfulness in stressful meetings. Learn to pause before reacting. Build habits of deep breathing to steady nerves. But resilience isn't just exposure, it's mindset. Most see stress as the enemy, something to avoid or endure. A threat to comfort and control. Research shows your mindset shapes how stress affects you. See stress as harmful? It harms you. See stress as helpful? It helps you. People who view pressure as growth perform better. Their bodies recover faster. They seek challenge. They build resilience. This is the stress is enhancing mindset. A powerful tool for unbreakable self-control. The marketing manager with a deadline? They don't think, this stress will break me. They say, this pressure will help me focus and excel. The teacher dealing with conflict? They don't think, this is awful. They say, this challenge sharpens my communication. The entrepreneur facing failure? They don't think, I'm done for. They say, this setback teaches me and makes me stronger. This reframe changes everything. Stress fuels you. Pressure becomes an ally. Challenges turn to opportunities. Most importantly, unbreakable self-control starts inside your mind. Under stress, most people's thoughts spiral. Oh no, this is a disaster. I can't handle this. They're going to see I'm a fraud. This chaos sabotages action. High performers control their inner dialogue. They build pressure protocols, mental routines to reset themselves. The salesperson about to pitch? They don't panic. They take 3 deep breaths, remind themselves of preparation and expertise. Visualize success. Focus on serving, not impressing. In less than a minute, their mindset shifts. From anxious to confident, from scattered to focused, from reactive to responsive. The surgeon about to operate? They review key steps, connect with their training. Set the intention to be fully present. Focus on the patient. This centers them, connects to competence, aligns with purpose, ready for peak performance. These protocols aren't just for big moments. They're for daily pressure, too. The parent handling a toddler meltdown, the employee receiving criticism, the student taking an exam, the driver stuck in traffic. Every pressure moment is practice. Every stressful situation builds resilience. Every challenge is training for what's next. Here's the beautiful truth. The more you face pressure, the less it controls you. The more you train calmness, the more natural it becomes. You're not just building self-control. You're becoming unbreakable, able to handle anything, thriving under pressure, not breaking, seeing challenges as growth. That consultant with the broken projector. 6 months later, known as the crisis handler. Clients request them for tough situations. Their career skyrockets on a reputation for grace. The teacher with tough students becomes the go-to for hardest classes. Their calm in chaos is legendary. The entrepreneur facing setbacks builds a reputation for resilience. Investors trust their steadiness. Their business thrives because they don't break. This is the compound effect of unbreakable self-control. It changes your trajectory. It makes you the person others turn to when things get hard. It creates rare opportunities. Most of all, it gives you a gift no circumstance can take. Confidence in your ability to handle whatever comes. Trust in your capacity to figure things out. Faith in your resilience to bounce back. This is true freedom. Not the absence of challenges, but the confidence to face them. Not the absence of pressure, but the ability to thrive in it. Not avoidance of stress, but using it as fuel. And this freedom is yours. Starting now. Starting with your next challenge. Your next chance to stay calm under pressure. Your next step toward unbreakable self-control. Because every pressure moment is a gift. Every stressful challenge is training. Every obstacle is growth. The question isn't if pressure will come. It will. The question is, will you be ready? Will you have built the unbreakable mind that thrives when others crumble? Will you be the calm in the storm? That person is becoming you. One pressure moment at a time. One conscious choice at a time. The world needs people like this. People who think clearly in chaos. Lead when others falter. Stay centered when all spins. That person could be you. Should be you. Is you. Decide to become them. Practice until it's true. Because mastery of self-control is mastery of life. It's becoming unbreakable. It's the ultimate power of high performers. The ability to be your best when it matters most. The strength to rise when others fall. The courage to thrive when others survive. This is your invitation, your moment, your path. The unbreakable version of you is waiting. The world is ready for what you'll become when you meet them.